Lighter winds for the fifth day of Skandia Cowes week provided a welcome respite for many, and although the day started off grey and overcast, the sun did break through later. The SB3s were first away on the white group starting line, and once again they avoided a general recall, despite the light southerly and a strong flood tide pushing them over the line. The sensible boats started near the middle of the line, but there were still plenty which chose to start at the outer end, where Alpha Boy came in for plenty of abuse. At least 3 boats hit the mark, including overall leader Jeff Carberth in Team Earl's Court, sporting the series leader's pink spinnaker, and many more were swept the wrong side of it and struggled to get back against the tide. City of Cape Town got a flyer off the line and led the fleet down to the first mark of West Ryde Middle, which they rounded with a good lead. Then the pack piled into the mark, with the tide sweeping them past it. The inevitable carnage ensued, with boats rafted together, hitting the mark and being forced outside it. Ian Williams, sailing Team Pindar, got on the inside of the first bunch of boats and picked off several places. Jerry Hill's 3 sad old blokes won this race with Team Pindar in second, leaving them tied for the overall lead. Early leader City of Cape Town finished third. Jeff Carberth arrived at the first mark with the back markers, but later pulled through to 27th. But interestingly, the results didn't show him taking a time penalty for hitting the starting mark. The aptly named Bish Bash Bosh did take a penalty for hitting it, just after Carberth, and he finished 43rd. Most of the Etchells were wary of the start line, except Festina 2, which looked to be over, but she later retired. Mark Downer, sailing Moonlight, made a good start, and by the second leg, which was a long fetch to a mark in the entrance to Southampton Water, Moonlight was leading, with Esprit in second and Pale Tide in third. The series leader, Graham Bailey in Arbitrator, was fourth at this stage. We caught up with the fleet again at their final mark, after the early light southerly had died, to be replaced eventually by an easterly. The calm patch in between played snakes and ladders with many of the fleets. In the Etchells, Moonlight did well to retain the lead, by a 5-minute margin. Andrew Cooper and Mark Powell's China White came through to take second, while Pale Tide finished third. Graham Bailey's Arbitrator was the biggest loser, dropping to 8th. Hamish Jansen's Streak crossed the line backwards as the Darings drifted away east off the line in a southerly that was getting lighter and lighter. Audax made a good start at the outer end, but as the fleet headed across the entrance to Cowes Harbour, the bulk of them were line abreast, heading for their first mark of West Ryde Middle. But further inshore, the series leader Dauntless was taking advantage of the wind funneling out of the River Medina and immediately moved into a commanding lead. Dauntless was followed at this stage by Division Bell and Decoy. Halfway through the race, Dauntless was out on her own, almost out of sight of the next boat. Dauntless went on to complete the 14.5-mile race in 3 hours 40 minutes, over 7 minutes ahead of Defender, which took second place, and Decanter, which finished third. Richard Bailey in the sonar We're Here got a good start near the outer end of the line, But then the wind deserted him, and he could only watch as inshore the Island Sailing Club sonar Fiscal, sailed by Penny Carter, enjoyed a brief moment of fame as they led the fleet east. Close behind were the hotshots on Riposte, who were one of the favourites for the series. Not far behind them was the series leader, Barry Byam's Whatever. But the other hot favourite, Simon Barter's Bertie, sat in a wind hole on the line for 5 minutes and could only watch as the leaders sailed away. The weather gods were to have their say with this fleet today, as with so many others. By the time we saw them again at RYA Yachtmaster, Whatever had taken the lead, and they went on to win, with Simon Clark and Ken Newnham's Jenny in second, and Chris Girling's Sinful in third. The topsy-turvy winds had dropped Riposte to 6th, while Bertie, which had climbed a ladder into 3rd place, found another snake to slide down and finished 8th. While we've seen lots of boats hit Alpha Buoy at the starts this week, not least the SB3s today, it was good to see the Red Wing Ladybird immediately hoist the yellow flag to acknowledge her infringement and take a penalty. It's a pity everyone doesn't play by the same rules. Over near the mainland shore, the X's had a long wait for enough wind to get away from their committee boat start. Eventually, at 2:20, they got away in a nice easterly, with Steve Lawrence's Catherine getting a great start at the pin end, which enabled him to cross the fleet when he tacked to port. After a fairly long beat against the tide to Mackley Construction, it was Catherine which rounded the mark first and set off on a reach to a laid mark on the mainland shore. Bizarrely, the race committee had set a starboard rounding, which required the boats to loop around the mark. Luckily, most avoided the potential mayhem this could have caused. Catherine had set off on a broad reach, while the mark was actually a close reach across the tide, and those that held high closed the gap. By the finish, it was the master of X-boat sailing, Stuart Jardine in Lone Star, who took first place, with William Norris and Beatrix second, and Catherine third. Tomorrow's forecast promises more light winds in the morning, increasing in the afternoon. So join us for our next video report to see who comes out on top as we move into the last 3 days of the regatta.